Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me this Thursday to discuss the 2024-2025 application cycle. I know that some of you have submitted some applications yesterday, today, this week, and next week we'll be submitting applications for round one. And I wanted to just take a moment and wish you all good luck as you hit that submit button. Have courage and you will get, if you put in a lot of efforts, hopefully the rewards will come as well. This session today, it's actually beneficial for both round one applicants who are preparing for interviews as well as round two applicants who are preparing for their MBA application submissions. So stay tuned, watch until the end for those insights in terms of how you're going to tailor your application materials. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to invite you to subscribe to our channels. Every single week, we do host a live video focused on different components of the MBA journey and MBA application. And if you're going through this journey, if you know someone who's going through this journey, definitely you want to stay tuned and get some of the latest insights. We are on YouTube, we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn as well, so you can join from any platform. And if you're joining us live, I would invite you to also ask questions in the comments of any of the platforms you're joining us from. This way, I can answer directly questions to what matters to you in terms of helping you put together a strong application. So I'll be monitoring my second screen, which is on this side of my desk, and for questions and comments that come in. And I invite you to ask along the way. This way I can stop and present those. If you are looking for support, one-on-one coaching on how you present your story in a particular way that resonates with, what your experiences have been and is authentic, but also takes into account what schools are looking for, I encourage you to reach out for a free consultation. We can discuss how we support applicants' journey at CIA admissions. We have a 9-step process and it's a proven process in terms of what are the things that we will coach you through, will guide you through in putting together the strongest application. And if you're going through the interview preparation, we also have interview coaching as well. So I invite you to have a conversation to discuss how we can support that as well. So with that, why don't we get started and talk about the application and tailoring your application for each school. Just as a few notes, I'm gonna get the slide to work. Just as a few notes here, what we'll be talking about. What we'll be talking about today is essentially the value of research, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means, what to focus on in terms of your research, because obviously you don't have unlimited time. You don't have unlimited time even if you weren't working, but most of you are working full-time, and a lot of you are also sitting for GMAT and GRE and managing the application materials. So obviously you don't want to go down the rabbit hole and not make the most out of the research that you are going through. You want to, obviously, we're going to be talking about how do you align that research with the application to the specific schools that you're applying. Q&A is obviously part of our weekly discussion, and we do have questions that have come through the registration form, but I would love to also answer your questions that are live here with us today. So let's get started. Why is, first and foremost, research so important? I hear sometimes applicants talk about this notion that, I'm going to do research online. I don't want to bother people. I don't have the time to connect with people. I don't know if I'm admitted or if I will be admitted, therefore I don't want to invest so much of my time and my emotions into the researching of the application. And that a lot of that makes sense, of course. However, as you go through this journey, I want you to think from the perspective of the reader of your application, the person or the people who are, or the person actually who's going to be interviewing you. The idea is that they want to know that they are desired. They are a school that you really want to attend. And the only way you can showcase that to them is to tell them that you've done your research, to tell them that you know exactly what that school offers, you know exactly how it's going to be valuable to you, and you are very excited to be there. So when it comes to your applications to business schools, you must think of it essentially as a marketing tool for yourself in terms of how can you demonstrate to them that you are a very strong candidate first and foremost, but also someone who is going to be adding value to the classroom that you really want to attend should you be admitted to the program, right? So your research then really is going to help you tailor your application to capture your values and the school's offerings. It is essentially helping you make that perfect fit. It also helps you highlight the relevant experiences. And oftentimes when applicants go through this journey, obviously the schools have a lot of information that's available on their website. But just like with anything that you find on the website, including this one, this video, this live today, it's more macro level. It's not going to be specific to your own journey, to your own specific needs. So you do want to obviously do research online, but also continue that research further, and we'll talk a little bit how you do that. And then your research is also going to help you, as I mentioned earlier, show that genuine interest in the school. If you have the ability to have reflected enough on your own motivations, on your own interests, your own values rather, of what you are bringing to the table, what experiences have you had and why those experiences are important, and then are able to actually get to understand what the school's offerings are and tie them together with what your motivations are towards the future, then the only thing that someone reading your application can think is a genuine interest, because you've invested a lot of time into putting together an application, to understanding the schools and their offerings, and you are able to effectively communicate that for them. So how do we do this? What should you be focusing on is an important component here. The research that you do online, what's on the school's website, is elementary. Genuinely, everyone needs to do that at the basics. However, the ones that take the application to the next level is the ones who are able to understand the program's culture, their values, understand what their unique offerings are in relation to their specific goals. So if you're interested in energy and nothing in your application talks about energy, obviously that's not going to be the most effective way of communicating to any of the schools that you're applying to that you really are interested in that school, and that school offers you the things that you need in order to get to your goals. And what you need to then focus on is, of course, to ask questions that specifically align to the culture of the school and the values of the school. If the school pays close attention to community and community engagement, there is a school that is very focused on helping and supporting one another. And I know each one of them says a version of that, but there are some that emphasize it a lot. And for those schools, you must capture that into your application. Therefore, you want to really engage with students and alumni to understand what does that look like secondhand, essentially, given that you are not on campus yet, to understand what that looks like. If you are able to visit campus, I encourage you to actually go and visit campus when the classes are in session, when the semester is buzzing with activity, because that's the way that you are going to be able to demonstrate or actually see and witness firsthand what it feels like to be a student there, even though it's for a couple of hours in a given day. When you are having conversations with students and alumni, you want to be in conversation and you want to focus on connecting not just with anyone, not just with any ambassador, not just with any student that you see walking down the hallway. It should be really focused on what you want to do. So your peers are going to be reflective of the environments that you want to be in. So the kinds of conversations you want to be a part of. So continuing that energy analogy, if you are interested in the energy space, there is no reason why, unless you want energy in marketing, there's no reason why you should be focusing on marketing, but really you should be focusing on people who are in the energy club, people who are in those environments that are going to add value to understanding what those offerings are at the school and be able to gain firsthand account, right, of that. For alumni, you want to focus on where are the alumni going and how many of them, where are they in terms of like what their employers are, and are those employers in alignment with what matters to you in terms of, you know, the kinds of employers you want to be working at. So connect with people who are in the spaces that you want to occupy. And then, of course, don't waste people's time. When you get to, leadership responsibilities, and as you grow in your career, the only thing that you have is time, and you want to really preserve it most effectively. So in order for you to show them the respect that you are really conscientious of their time, you go in prepared with specific questions that you're going to have based on your interests and your needs, of course. And then once you've gathered that research, once you've done that research, and you want to talk not just with one person, you're going to talk to multiple people per school, which means obviously you need time, and you're also dependent on people's availability. So you want to start this process earlier than you need it. And that's because, of course, they have their own agenda in terms of when they are able to connect with you. When it comes to your application, then you're aligning the program's values with your own values, right? Just like if any of you that are watching this are in a marketing role, you recognize that the company's offerings that you're presenting to your target audience is going to be catered to what they're looking for. The same thing here in your application. You don't get to write your autobiography in your application. You're giving snippets of what your experiences have been, and you want to make that alignment effectively. And the only way you do that is by fully understanding what the school offers. In your applications, don't shy away from mentioning specific resources, right? If it's a energy club, if it's a consulting club, but go beyond just superficial elements, because everyone is going to say that's going into consulting, I want to join the consulting club, but make meaning out of what that means for you and how you're going to leverage that in a way that really showcases authenticity. But you can't do that if you don't know what the club offers. You can't do that if you don't know what the opportunities are on campus. And then incorporate in your application real interactions. Actually mention people that you spoke to, but not just, I spoke to Jane Doe and John Smith, but rather how have those conversations further helped you understand that your target institution is the right place for you in terms of being able to get the resources that you need, and that they're going to offer you all the training that you require, all the exposures that you require in order to get to where you want to go in your goals. And I know that sounds like, it doesn't sound like I'm giving anything, but in order for you to know what you can give, you have to understand what is there what are the opportunities on campus. So you can't necessarily know how your experiences add value if you don't know what the opportunities are on campus. The same thing like you do in your application when it comes to your interview. So for those of you who are going through the interview process, you're going to want to continue the conversation or add more people to your roster of conversations that you've had to the schools that you are applying to. It is in the interview, it's not just what you've included in a written format, right? The interviewer can ask follow-up questions. You need to fully understand what the schools offer, be able to talk about them with a high degree of confidence, be able to interpret what value those are going to be for you, all of that while you're speaking to someone naturally, right? So if you don't have a clear picture of what that looks like, and all you relied on is the school's website, then of course that's not going to be enough in terms of convincing them that you know why you're going to the school. Every school has its uniqueness to it, and it's your job as an applicant to find what that uniqueness is in terms of the opportunities that the schools offer. So even in the interview, you want to be mindful of the examples that you're putting together that are going to align with the school's values, with the school's culture. Even how you present yourself, show up in front of the interviewer, is an opportunity for you to showcase that you are the kind of person that belongs at your target institution. When it comes to the interview, and I know, if you are on my channel, if you've been watching my videos, following my content, I'm not someone who shies away from working hard and understanding, doing all the things that you need to do. And I impart that mindset to the people that I work with as well, and even in this channel, sharing those insights. So you know that you're going to be doing research, and you're gonna have conversations with people, right? If you're doing if you're following my guide, those are the steps that you're going to take. And sometimes you can say, well, I've asked all the questions I had. And in the interview, you have to come up with more questions. You can integrate in your interview what your knowledge you've already gathered so far, but have the ability to continue the conversation with the interviewer. So whether that interviewer is a first-year student, second-year student, alumnus, admission representatives, you can really capture how much you have done and be able to show that to them in the way you ask thoughtful questions for them, to the interviewer. So don't take I'm going to prepare some generic questions and just ask the interviewer something very simple. It really should be a thoughtful process, because how you ask questions also determines how engaged you are, right? And you want to show them that you are really engaged, especially if you got to the interview phase. Like, that's a really important step to get to in order to gain admission. You don't get admitted if you don't have an interview. And then, of course, you're going to incorporate real interactions in that as well. So you can say, I spoke with these individuals, I spoke with these clubs, I had attended these events, I gathered this intel, but I want to know more, right? Or even, and that's on the questions component, but even in the way you're answering questions like, how are you going to leverage, or what are you going to contribute to Kellogg, right? You are going to be able to specifically integrate the lessons, the insights that you've gained from the conversations, from the research that you've done, into how you're going to contribute, because you know exactly what those opportunities are on campus. So with that, I believe that is my last slide. Yes. We're going to jump into questions. Please ask your questions in whichever platform you're joining. I'm just going to stop sharing screens and move my window over. Excellent. All right, I am ready for questions. All right, so a question that came in through the registration form is, what are the specific pitfalls to avoid when tailoring my application to each school? This is an excellent question in terms of, your application, the pitfall that I would really avoid, and this is where, I always say, don't write an application overnight. You're not going to be able to do it effectively, is that it's not about just sharing that you spoke to someone, or not about just sharing that you're going to take advantage of this major or this class or this professor or this club or this center. It's really being able to identify how that's going to be valuable to you and dive deeper. So take the ideas further in integrating them with what you want to do and what you can, what value you're going to get. Sometimes I see in applications that applicants just say, I'm going to take advantage of this class, and then just going on a litany of things that they have found out that are interesting to them. This may not be the most effective way, because the schools, you are applying to business school, and you are essentially asking, you are applying to a graduate level education. You are looking to become a future leader, and you need to be able to integrate your research into how you present your stories. And obviously that's part of the communication element that is is important in terms of showcasing how you think, showcasing that you can integrate insights that you get and make meaning out of them in your application. So whatever it is that you say, take it one step further in adding meaning to your application. I think that will definitely help you elevate your responses to the next level. Now, it's not part of the question, but oftentimes I see this. Applicants immediately get nervous that, oh, I have 500 words. If I take this and I add meaning to it, that's obviously going to have a lot more words. I don't have the space, all of those worries, normal things. And then there's levels to, I just want to remind you that there's levels essentially to the application essay communication, right? There is a gathering of intel, there's crafting of that intel or integrating that intel into your essays. There's a development of that. And then, of course, there is the editing out material that's not necessary. Those are phases of the essay development. And you do need to go through those phases. Typically, you don't do that all at the same time. From our perspective here at SIA, we approach things with the mindset of quality over quantity. So it's not about having every single thing that you found out from everyone that you spoke to in your essay, but rather is about highlighting the most important things that will add a value to your growth as a professional and helping you get to the next level. If I'll be talking to alumni and prepare a set of questions for them, does it matter if I use the same set of questions or should it be different for each school? You can ask the same set of questions typically per school. So you're going to talk, I hope, with more than one alumnus for each school. And therefore, you can ask the same set of questions to those alumni, but each school needs its own set of questions for both alumni and, or rather for alumni, even though they are graduates of an MBA program. There can be questions where you're curious about their career. That can be across the board, irrespective of school, but school-specific insight in terms of like how the school has supported them. That has to be school-specific questions. And obviously, you are preparing questions that are appropriate to the alumni that you're speaking with. All right, next question. Is there a difference in structure of my resume for each school, or one-page resume can apply to all? I would say in most cases, it's true that you can use one resume across the board. There are some nuances. So, if you're applying to the likes of Stanford, for example, that has a very entrepreneurial tech focus mindset, then you may have to tweak things, but your experiences across the schools, you're going to be highlighting your most important, your most most impactful experiences, because essentially your resume, it's a highlight of your greatest achievements. So you don't necessarily need to change a lot in the application per school. There may be a few tweaks here and there, but not that much. So that's a good sign. Excellent. All right, we have 5 more minutes. Any questions that you have, please ask them in the comments, and I'll be happy to respond to them. Should I care about the school's industry focus or just stick with my post-MBA goals? Obviously, if you're applying to a school that doesn't have a lot of focus in that particular area that you're interested in, if you're and if they're not they don't have a lot of resources in what you're interested in, obviously that's not a good fit from the beginning. So you shouldn't be applying to that school. So that's part of your research and understanding, first and foremost, which schools you should be applying to, and you need to look at what opportunities are in your field of interest. When we work here with clients through this process, through our nine-step process, one of the steps is school research. But before we even get to school research, we actually work on goals. And that will help determine what schools you are selecting in terms of their ability to meet your needs. So yours, you do need to care about the school's, areas of interest, areas of opportunity. But I would say focus on, if you've done that effectively the first time around, which is in the selection process, then in the focus in terms of your essays and your application, really just highlight how the school is going to offer you. So stick to your post-MBA goals and really just dive into that and those opportunities there. Okay, how do I make sure that I hit all the school's values? How do I make sure that I hit all the school values all throughout my application materials? I would say don't force anything. So the schools have many different values. There are some that are more important to you than others, and some that resonate with you more than others. I would say focus on the things that resonates with you more, because you're going to be more genuine in those, in that regard. Schools that have, for example, like Berkeley Haas, that has the 4 pillars that matter to them a lot. You're obviously going to weave that into the application and showcasing how you embody those 4 pillars that Berkeley offers, or that Berkeley cares about, rather. But it's a weaving element. It's not I have to make sure that it shows up here and here and here and over here, even if it doesn't make sense, because obviously it's gonna be very evident what you're trying to do, which then they're gonna start questioning, are you being authentic? And if they start questioning your authenticity, then obviously it's not going to bode well for your application. So I would be natural and really focus on what your values are and how do they match the school as closely as possible, and naturally as possible, of course. All right, so I'm going to end the session here. I don't see any live questions, but do join us next week. We're going to talk about post-MBA goals. I know this is a question that you all have. You really want to get those post-MBA goals right, because it affects your application. If your goals are not in alignment with what schools can offer, if they're not based on reality of what the market looks like, obviously that's going to impact your application. So join me next week. Until then, if you want to discuss your application and how our process can support you, please feel free to reach out for a free consultation. I will see you next week. Thank you.